Hi, my name's Kelly Phones. I'm an educator here at Montavilla Sewing Centers located in the Portland, Oregon area. Today we are going to be talking about the Janome Continental M7. This machine is pretty fantastic. I loved it so much I decided to take one home with me. There really isn't anything I haven't been able to sew, but like any machine, you have to learn the basics. So we are going to be starting with the basics: threading, bobbin winding, and just these operating buttons. Later videos will be going over everything you see on this screen here and some tips and tricks for the machine. So be sure to look at all of the videos that we have posted on this machine. Let's go ahead and get started with bobbin winding. You have two spools up here. One is for threading your needle. The one on the far right is for winding your bobbins. And just so you don't forget how to wind your bobbins, the different path you need to take with your thread, there's a terrific diagram on the top of the machine. The dotted lines is for bobbin winding. The solid line is for threading your needle. So for bobbin winding, you want to grab your thread like dental floss and pull it down into this pre-tensioner and give it a little tug. And you're simply going to pull it over to your bobbin, wind it around, say half a dozen times, tuck it into one of these slots. There is a thread cutter in the bottom of each slot, so it doesn't matter which one you tuck it into. Then all you have to do is push your button and your bobbin will wind. When it is completely full, the machine will automatically stop. You do have a separate motor for your bobbin winder, and you don't have to unthread your machine to wind your bobbin. So when your bobbin's done, it will stop and your bobbin winder pops back over. And you just take the bobbin off and you have a thread cutter right here above your hand wheel. You'll notice that your bobbin is nicely wound, good tension, evenly filled. So this is what you want a good bobbin to look like. When you're done winding your bobbin, I prefer to take the thread off the machine. I don't want to risk that thread tail getting accidentally caught up in the hand wheel. Now we're ready to thread our needle. Let's see, let's go under this thread guide. So for threading this machine, the first thing I do is I drop my needle, then I pull it back up. Then I want to lock the machine. What this does is it drops my foot and it opens up my tension discs. So you come here to this first thread guide, down here into this thread guide, down, back up. I like to put my finger here so I have some tension on it so I can give it a little tug to make sure it's well seated in the take-up lever. Go straight down behind this one, behind that one, into this groove for the needle threader here. And then around to the side of the machine and just gently trim it off with the thread cutter on the side of the machine. All you have to do is push down on this lever very gently, give it a little final push, and your needle's threaded perfectly. Next thing we're going to do is put our bobbin in. So this little black lever here, you slide that over to the right, and that will pop off your bobbin cover. You want to make sure that the tail of the thread is coming off to the left, or some people find it easy to remember, make a P. Drop that in your bobbin, case, just like that. Then you're going to pull it around. You want to come under this first guide and make sure that it goes underneath this little metal piece here. So keeping some tension on the bobbin can be helpful. Then you slide it up and around and down here and trim that off. To put your bobbin cover back on, the tabs go to the left. So the bobbin, the little picture of the bobbin, goes directly over the bobbin as it's in the machine. So you just tuck that in. Trying to use my left hand so I'm not blocking the view, but that is difficult for me with that maneuver. Really not at all ambidextrous. So then all you have to do is take your thread, tuck it underneath your foot, and you are good to start sewing. Unlock your machine and select your stitch. We are on a basic straight stitch. So that's the basics of your threading and your bobbin. Next thing we're going to talk about is these buttons, your operating buttons. This one is your tie-off. This is your reverse button. If you know you want to secure your stitch at the beginning or the end of your seam, you can use these pre-programmed stitches. You'll notice this one has an extra stitch in the picture. This one has a little bit darker, has a little dark dot on it right here. So what this is going to do is automatically do a tie-off. When you're done with your seam, you simply tap this button, the machine will go ahead and tie that off for you. This is a start-stop button, and you can use this in place of your foot control. It's an either-or situation. So if you're going to use this, make sure your foot control is unplugged. This is your needle up, down. Drops your needle, brings it back up. With a machine with that feature, you really don't use your hand wheel very much. Sometimes I do if I need to be sure of exact positioning, like if I'm sewing a button on with my machine. This is your thread cutter. So that will cut your thread after you're finished sewing. And it keeps your tails at the perfect length, so when you start sewing your next seam, you're not getting a lot of nesting and you don't have to hang on to those tails. This button drops your foot and raises it back up. You will notice that if you have used that electronic lift, your manual one no longer is functioning. To correct that, all you have to do is drop your foot, and then you can use the manual one again. This is a speed control. This is the slowest, and this is the fastest. There are times when I want to control how fast my machine's going. So for buttonholes, for instance, I'm going to have it on about a little less than medium. And rather than using my foot control, I'm going to use that start-stop button. It really depends on what you're doing, what task you're doing, which setup you want to use, foot control or the start-stop button. These dials over here change your width as well as your length. So if you are doing a zigzag stitch, rather than using the controls on the screen, you can just change it here. And those changes that you make show up, are illustrated directly on the screen. So it changes the look of your stitch as you modify them. So that covers all of the basic operations, threading and bobbins for the Continental M7. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the other videos. Thanks a lot.